They had lasers, so it looked like, oh, cool, a laser light show. No, when you have 50 people directing these lasers at the eyes of an individual officer, you get injuries that can damage the eye permanently. And there were dozens of federal agents whose eyes were injured. And on the laser subject, right now, an Antifa blog in Portland has put out flyers and put out posts online calling for their comrades to try to aim all their lasers at the pilot that flies the DHS helicopter over the ice facility.
Are these like the Blackhawks over the...
Yes, they're trying to cause a crash, kill people. So they're using some of the tactics they learned before. They don't have as many people, but they have so much experience, and they're emboldened because they weren't held accountable.
Yeah, the frontline moms, I mean, Washington Post, wall of moms inspired by Portland protesters face off intense protest in Portland. It's like that they glorified these frontline moms, and it's like, yeah, you're putting lipstick on a pig, basically.
Well, and that's even still something. I remember I was having a conversation with someone in my family who's pretty lefty the other day, and I was saying this Antifa stuff, and I was talking about what was going on at the White House, and she was like, well, isn't it just a bunch of moms? And I was like, no, it's not. You're remembering a headline that was also just fake.
Well, they're so lucky that they have the entire media machine backing them up, comedy, entertainment, whatever it may, late night comedy, whatever it may be. They have all of that backing them up. So all they really need is those little movements, right? Those moms or the people in the costumes to use as propaganda. So you can say, oh, well, look, it's like this. So I was talking to Andy on the way over here. And what you'll notice is Democrat politicians, commentators, whatever it may be, are saying, oh, really? I mean, Antifa doesn't seem dangerous. Look, these people are wearing costumes. And it's like, when we're having this conversation, we're talking about 2020. We're talking about 2021. We're talking about over the last 4 years. We're talking about now, right? And it's all of that mixed together that forms our views on these left-wing militants, right? Not just one little photo or one little video of 5 minutes with some guy in a costume dancing in front of police officers, right? Because if the video was just by itself and that was the only thing, you'd probably look at that and you say, yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, they had this guy that was strategically placed when Kristi Noem was up on the rooftop there at the ice facility. There was this guy in this chicken costume that was in the middle of the crowd that was outside. And they kept saying, "Oh well, look, there's nothing happening out here. It's really light. There's this isn't a riot or whatever." Well, the reason that there were so few people out there when Kristi Noem was there is because Portland police cleared the block, like they should do every single night.
Like Gavin Newsom did for President Xi when he came in.
Exactly, precisely. That way
that
they could not have
when she showed up, and for California the same.
They wanted to make sure that they had it under control, so that the pictures that came out from Kristi Noem's visit did not look like that there was that there was lawlessness outside the ice facility. Now, there is no reason that this was the proposal that DHS made, which doesn't seem that it's too far out there. Just give them a place where they can protest. They're not saying that you can't protest. They're just saying you can't protest in the middle of the street and block our agents and hamper deportations. Like, we give you a zone over here where you can protest, not in the middle of the street. I mean, Portland police could do that very, very easily if they actually wanted to, and that would solve most of these problems, but they don't want to.
That's interesting. That's like during the Biden administration, you had all of this nonsense about, and even before, free speech zones on college campuses, and conservatives were like shunted into these little corners of campuses where they could talk about, things like pro-life and all kinds of other stuff. But they're not willing to put protesters who are violently attacking law enforcement. Like, you can have part of the block. You can't have the whole block.
Right.
But a bunch of things were just mentioned, and I want to talk about them. So you're talking about how mainstream media, for the most part, you brought up the Washington Post in 2020. There's been a lot of that even this summer. This has been glossed over. We saw CNN's Erin Burnett, Burnett, just on Wednesday night after the roundtable, which was so compelling. She went on air and she started talking about how Antifa wasn't even real because they don't have a visible leadership structure. She's expecting someone to get out there and be like, I'm Antifa, we're going to go protest DHS. And that's, not what happens.
You know why they don't have a centralized leadership structure? It's because they've learned, these are far less violent extremists who've learned from the mistakes from the Weather Underground, Black Liberation Army, and other communist terrorist groups in the 60s and 70s, which young people today have no idea even existed, that for a period of time in America, there were terror cells carrying out bombings, killings, jailbreak-ins, shooting people dead, manufacturing bombs at home and exploding buildings. And these were centralized groups.
Exploding the Capitol. They set off a bomb in the Capitol.
So many terror attacks that people just aren't aware of that were done by the left just two generations ago. So learning from those mistakes, the militants today say we cannot organize in that type of way. It's too easy to you take out like a leader or several key figures and then the whole group basically kind of falls apart. Now the Antifa organize in a decentralized way, autonomously. And I bring up the example of radical Islam because people are more aware of it. It's been around, terrorism has been around longer in that regard. Antifa is an ideology. So when Christopher Wray, former FBI director, said that at a hearing several years ago, he was not wrong. When Biden said that during a debate, it's not wrong, it's just incomplete. I mean, yes, it's an ideology. Neo-Nazism is an ideology. Fascism is an ideology. Communism is an ideology. What matters is how people organize around that ideology, right? And it can manifest in very different ways. Radical Islam can include international terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, ISIS. Where there's leadership, who's at the top. And then it can also be groups like Muslim Brotherhood, who are part of the Islamist ideology as well, and they function as charities in a number of Western countries, nonprofits. And then there are those who consume the extremist propaganda that's online and become a lone wolf, radicalized individual and takes direct action. So the Antifa ideology manifests in all those ways. And some of the groups don't even have the name Antifa in it, but they are an Antifa group. For example, going back to 2020, the group that organized the riots in Portland and Seattle was the Youth Liberation Front. They don't have Antifa in the name. They were an Antifa group. So my annoyance with people in the media and others who say, well, who's the leader of it? Oh, I don't see a registered entity. It's like, that's the point. That's why they organize in that way, so that they can just fade into the back and say there's no organized structure, so that they can continue carrying out acts of organized violence. Just look at the footage of the riots. That's extremely organized. They have sources of funding through crowdfunding. They're supported through mutual aid groups, so-called mutual aid groups that give them food, bail support, so access to pro bono lawyers. And a lot of those organizations get funding either at the federal level or at the state level. So taxpayers are funding Antifa. I keep bringing that up. Also, the rioters are encouraged to get arrested, actually trained and encouraged to get arrested. And the reason for that is so that they can become party to mass lawsuits against police departments and cities for huge settlements. And in liberal jurisdictions, they just settle, no problem. 1 million, 10 million, 20 million. There are some rioters getting hundreds of thousands because they were arrested and they alleged police brutality in Portland or many of these other cities. So there's this whole apparatus. Mainstream media is very important to them. That's why they're so angry about Paramount buying Free Press and placing Barry Weiss at editor-in-chief of CBS, because they need the fellow travelers who work in ideological fellow travelers who work in mainstream media to mainstream their propaganda. And they need stenographers for their lies there. And they need the useful idiots as well who parrot certain things out of ignorance.
Yeah, like Aaron Burnett the other day.
Yashar Ali,
Yeah. And you also see, so we've seen a lot of mainstream media covering up for this stuff. You're calling them fellow travelers, fellow ideological travelers in this Antifa journey. And you also see a lot of times mainstream media claiming that you guys aren't journalists. Right. I saw a spat I saw this spat with Savannah Hernandez, who of course is terrific.
Yeah. Literally puts her life on the line to get stories and is being criticized by this guy.
Yeah. He has a nice British accent. So
Right.
Yeah.
So exactly.
So
that adds like 20 IQ points to Americans.
Why? How does this get how is this let to stand? How is this legitimized? This idea that you guys aren't journalists. Savannah's, saying she's not a journalist. You have, the Portland police recently called Katie Davenport a counter-protester as opposed to calling her a journalist. What is this obsession with trying to label you guys as something that you're not?
I mean, it's the only way that they can delegitimize what we're saying is to say, no, you're not actually a journalist. You're an agitator or you're a counter-protester. I don't believe. I know they want to say that email was an accident. I absolutely don't believe that was an accident. That is total BS. I mean, counter-protester is a. Never once did I see Katie out there going up and confronting these people on the streets out in front of the ICE facility and yelling at them. And I mean, that would be a counter-protester, right? I've never seen her do anything like that.
I think they were just trying to insult her.
Yeah,
in their,
of course.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to insult her for sure. But
nobody takes Mehdi Hassan's opinion seriously on this issue, luckily. I mean, nobody...
Fortunately, a lot of people do on the other.
Nobody reasonably. No reasonable person is going to do that. So... I don't know. I still think he can be deported.
I think what Brandy Cruz did at the, or what she said at the Antifa roundtable was spot on. And she said a lot of great things. But one of the things that she was talking about was that roundtable was for the administration to hear everyone out. That roundtable was for the American people to listen to. That roundtable was not for... the hyenas in the media. Like, that's not who it was for. She called them out before they even ran with their story. She said, you guys are just going to say that we're activists. You guys are going to say that we're MAGA influencers. You guys are going to say that Antifa's not real. And what did they do after, right? They did exactly that. Because it's the same tired game that they always play, right? This group that was responsible for inciting a majority, or I don't know, about a solid half of the most violent riots in 2020 and 2021, Antifa, the group that was responsible for most likely starting most of those, you're talking billions of dollars of damage to communities all over the country. You're talking about thousands of officer casualties. You're talking about, dozens of people dying because of those riots. So, I mean, to keep running with the idea that, it's just an ideology. It's just that's all it is. And there's no other physical activity attached to it. That's all it is. Like, I'm Antifa. You'll see people saying that, right? Because for some reason they think that means that there's nothing happening on the ground.
You'll see a lot of that, people saying I'm Antifa.
You'll see that, yeah, because they're trying to take away from the actual militants on the ground that are committing the violence and all that stuff, right?
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.